Is divine grace being unintentionally sabotaged in Christian communities worldwide?
This enthusiastic proclamation that Paul talks about here, the question arises in me, are we neglecting this great salvation offered to us? Are we perhaps, and when I say we, I'm not just talking about us here in Deep-Rooted Church, but I would say that are we as the church over the last 1,000 years, have we perhaps neglected this great message? Because not only does Paul proclaim the profound nature of God's grace, but he also in Galatians chapter 2 tells us, and this is what he says in Galatians 2:21. He says, therefore, I do not treat God's gracious gift as something of minor importance and defeat its purpose. Notice what Paul is saying. He says, listen, guys. He says, what I don't do is I do not neglect, or as he says here, I do not treat God's gracious gift as something of minor importance. You know, I hear a lot of preachers all the time talk about, well, you know, we know about grace and we know about the gospel of grace, but you know, there's so much more. Well, I don't see Paul talking about anything more important than this. He says, I do not defeat its purpose. The purpose. The purpose speaks about the result and the success of God's grace in Christ is the justification, the salvation of the whole world. That's the purpose of the gospel. Then he says, I do not set aside and invalidate and frustrate or nullify the grace or the unmerited favor of God. Now the term to frustrate there speaks of the idea of sabotaging or sabotage is most probably the best word, the sabotaging of the success and the result of God's grace. So what I hear Paul is saying here is that when we listen to his enthusiasm about what the message is that God gave him to preach, he says, I don't frustrate this gracious gift given to me. I don't frustrate, meaning I don't sabotage the intended success and the result of divine grace. Now, unfortunately, this, I believe, is exactly what has been happening in many Christian circles around the world. The traditional preaching and the presentation of the gospel has often diminished the transformative power and the influence of God's boundless mercy, his love, his grace in the lives of people that hear it.